Welcome to the Omnibus Show, a program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. And now your host, Dave Gibbs.
Well, hello and welcome to this episode of the Omnibus Show, a program for people who are interested in everything, with deep conversations on a wide variety of subjects. Our guests today are Martin Baier and Peter Kirkwood from the International Center in Indianapolis. Martin is the president and CEO of the International Center and the Honorary Consul of France to Indiana. He joined the center in 2011 and served the organization as vice president of programs and services until he assumed the position of president and CEO in 2017. And again, he serves as the Honorary Consul of France to Indiana. Peter joined the International Center in 2007 and serves as the center's chief of protocol. His role spans advising leaders on international dignitary visits and preparing delegations for overseas trips. As a cultural intelligence certified facilitator, Kirkwood directs intercultural communication workshops for global business and local diversity initiatives. Welcome, Martin and Peter. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you. This is it's a wonderful reunion. Well, starting with you, Martin, would you please tell us about the International Center?
Yeah, the International Center is a non-profit organization that was founded in 1973. So actually, we are in our 50-year anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much, yeah. And it started actually in 1971 when then Senator Lugar, as mayor of Indianapolis, hosted an international conference on cities in Indianapolis and needed a team of people that made sure that our delegations are welcome. Mm-hmm. And out from that, it formed the International Center of Indianapolis in 1973. And the work that the International Center is doing, based on our experience working with international delegation, one area is international relocation, the destination service, where we're helping international employees and their families with the settling in process. You've probably moved from one city to another, and you know how sometimes difficult and complicated this is.
Yes.
We are helping internationals that are coming from around the world, working for our global companies here in Indiana. Mm-hmm. And that starts with home finding, helping with the lease contract, utility setup, mm-hmm. And school registration, social security, you name it. Mm-hmm. And in addition, we provide a cross-cultural communication and U.S. workplace orientation for the individual, and more important, a community orientation for the family members, so that they have the vital information from day one before they run into any critical issues, mm-hmm. knowing about our healthcare system, public safety, what to do in case of an emergency, and what are the difference from different school systems if mm-hmm. they have children. So an overall taking care of them to make sure that they have good assignment, and that's all part of talent attraction and talent retention.
That's excellent, because I just think of so many times I've moved, but usually within around the country. I lived once internationally, but I lived with a couple, so they helped me along, and that was good. But in terms of helping someone relocate and just get situated, and it's just a wonderful thing that somebody's here for them, to help them get oriented, and also to bring them into the community where they're not just on their own.
Sure.
I would think, because there are many people live, ethnic groups, people live all over the world now. It's not just here or there. And I just would think that would be such an important element for anybody, and it's so helpful. So it's great that you're around.
That is correct, people. Yeah. And in addition, we're also involved with the U.S. Department of State's International Visitor Leadership Program, mm-hmm. where the State Department invites, through the embassies around the world, emerging leaders come to the United States to learn on certain topics. Mm-hmm. Rule of law, women in leadership, NGO management, you name it. And we host about 10, 15 delegations a year, build a professional itinerary, but also create opportunities for volunteers of the international centers to meet with our delegation, make them feel welcome.
Yeah, that's excellent because, again, that's taking it to the top level of dignitaries and so forth. Now, Peter, you were involved with the protocol process, and that's very critical with a lot of international relationships. Can you please tell us about that procedure and relationships with people?
Glad to. And I start with the definition of protocol that my mentor shared with me. Protocol is the art of creating a distraction-free environment that facilitates the complete and open exchange of information to build relationships and resolve issues in international business and diplomacy. Go back to the beginning of that definition, it's an art. So a lot of protocol are rules that we have that we go by, but knowing how to apply the rules and how to make the scene appropriate for all parties concerned is really the work that we do at the International Center in supporting our local officials that are hosting international dignitaries that are coming abroad and preparing them for their trips abroad, whether that's on an economic development trade mission or other partnerships. Because we're working with our state and local government, we're also working with our university partners, we're working with non-government organizations and nonprofits. So anybody that has those touch points of international relations and are part of that global network. So half of it is the logistics, really setting the stage. It's setting the conference room, making sure that we're following an order of precedence for our seating and speaking roles. And the other is coaching on the intercultural communication training, knowing the customs, knowing the taboos, and preparing so that when our dignitaries are going to receive their counterparts, that they have that confidence that they're going to make a good impression.
Sure.
And you help set the stage so you already know what you're going to be talking about before you get there. And there's no surprises, and we can really focus on building those relationships.
Well, that's very good. And it's very critical, too, towards a positive outcome on that. Now, Martin, you've had quite a journey yourself. Could you please tell us about your journey you're originally from Germany.
Correct.
And you've come to Indianapolis. And you're also involved with we'll talk about the council later, about your personal journey, because you're the embodiment of the International Center, because you're international and you're now one of us.
Yeah, correct. So actually, the first time I came to the United States was in 1988. At that time, I was an officer in the German Air Force, and I received a year's flying training from the U.S. Air Force in Sacramento, California. That's also where I met my wife. We're now married for 32 years. And most of my time stationed in southern Germany, spent some time in Italy and in England. And then from 1999 to 2002, I had the opportunity to be stationed again in the United States, in Alamogordo, New Mexico, where the German Air Force is commencing flying training on a U.S. base. And I was an instructor to the German Air Force, but in liaison to the U.S. Air Force, the 49th Fighter Wing, and the Pentagon. And back to Germany, and then in 2007, after 22 years in the military, that's when we moved to the Indianapolis area, actually to Carmel. I'm a resident of Carmel.
Well, fabulous. And it's great to have you here. And you too, Peter, I got to throw in, even though you're a Hoosier, you're from Fishers, right?
Correct.
Yeah. But that's a great journey, and it just underscores the whole intentions and purpose of an international center's, purpose of being a great organization for people from international backgrounds, integrating and being a part of the community. Peter, getting back to some of what you're involved with, the Cultural Intelligence Certified Facilitator. Can you please tell us a little bit about that? What is a cultural intelligence that we'd be certified on?
So, cultural intelligence is our capability to work effectively across diverse cultures, both domestically and internationally. So we got 4 capabilities within that. One is our motivation. Are we intrinsically motivated, extrinsically motivated, and how does that impact our self-efficacy or confidence in engaging across cultures. The next is our knowledge. Are we open to learning about different cultures? Not only just the customs, but understanding different economic and business systems. Next capability, our awareness. Are we checking ourselves against what we think we know and what we're experiencing when we're engaged in those intercultural communication and engagements? And then our skills is that final capability. Are we able to adapt our behaviors to meet their expectations? And these are measurable skills. They're things that we can work to improve on. So through our intercultural communication training and my work as a facilitator, we're working with Indiana businesses, local governments to develop those capabilities in their workforce to be able to resolve issues that are coming up, whether they're working with a diverse workforce locally or if they're looking to engage with their counterparts abroad. More and more, we're working with global teams here in Indiana that have operations all around the world, and especially with big jump that we've made in connectivity with using virtual meetings. We're able to not only do this with team members in Indiana, but we're working with the teams all across the globe. And these kind of workshops is something we're doing on a regular basis. Again, it's not just with Indiana businesses, it's with nonprofit organizations and governments. And we have an engaging across culture workshop series that we do that really brings all of those folks together to share and see how they can learn from one another and develop that kind of community of competence that's necessary for being successful in business.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. It's I think that's critically important. It seems politically that the big tension is on a large scale globally is between national sovereignty and globalism. Well, there will always be unique ethnic groups. I think I don't know the future. I don't know if we'll all be the same eventually, but however it goes, there needs to be a critical relationship of communication, and that's something that is critically important. It's not something you just take for granted because of all the, our past history and how we've had conflicts and so forth. I would think that is just that ups the game for everybody, so that when you're dealing with people, you're not going on just assumptions, and so that you're absolutely, you can get to a point where actually you can get on better and you can communicate in a way that we can always do better in communications, can't we? You know what I mean, in international sense. So I think that's fabulous. Now, Martin, to conclude for this chapter, we've got, you had mentioned the 50-year anniversary of the International Center. What are some milestones that you would point out over the period of those 50 years for the International Center?
There are many, based on the experience hosting international delegations, but then also using that experience and bringing a team together, either with international immigrants like myself or our Hoosier colleagues that have vast experience in working and living overseas, is developing programs where we see a need that did not exist before, as, for example, the relocation. Yeah. Yes, there's help in relocation, but they're all inclusive with the empathy that our team has, knowing what it means and how difficult it is to move from one city to another, but then move from another country. And that goes with it. So I'm really proud of establishing this, but then also other programs that we are involved, the State Department's exchange programs, and just recently in 2020, we started a global leadership series, the James D. Morris Global Leadership Series, based on a seminar that we had before, Leadership Across Cultures, where we have 20 participants that already established leaders in their field of expertise, but what does it mean now in an international environment or global environment? Either you do business around the world, or you have a diverse workforce or diverse client base, and we have established a 5-month program that talks about doing business on an international level for the companies and businesses, but also talk about the international engagement on federal level, on our state level and city levels, including also highlighting global good, meaning non-profit organizations in Indiana that are doing well around and doing good around the world.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's becoming increasingly important with time. So, well, thank you very much. Those are important milestones. Well, that's all for Chapter 1. We'll be back soon after a brief break with Chapter 2 on the Omnibus Show. Well, welcome back to Chapter 2 of the Omnibus Show. Go right into it. And Peter, can you tell us how the International Center is tied in with the Indianapolis Sister Cities program?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go back probably over 10 years ago now, we were working with the city of Indianapolis under Mayor Greg Ballard's administration, and really got involved in supporting the City of Indianapolis Sister City Initiative. This work has led me, and I work in protocol to support cities all over the state of Indiana in establishing these kind of partnerships, to the point now where I'm the Indiana State Representative for Sister Cities International. So at its roots, Sister Cities is a people-to-people exchange program built on this idea that everybody has the right, if not the responsibility, to shape U.S. foreign relations. Mm-hmm. We do it one community, one person at a time. It's an opportunity for people to open up their homes to develop these kind of relationships. It was envisioned by President Eisenhower in 1956 to really develop a peace program. But we're working with cities. Sometimes their interests are in economic development. So how can we bring foreign direct investment? Other times it's more of a focus on cultural exchange and creating vibrant communities. But the most successful are youth and education exchange programs. Mm-hmm. We can really expose kids to different worlds and different ways of doing things, then it really creates the next generation of citizen diplomats. And fortunately, in my work at the International Center, I get to work on partnerships all across the world and really bring this to our community as well.
That's fabulous. When I was young, it was about the time my sister was in high school, and we had an exchange student with, she's a Korean background, and the family had moved. They had ended up in Chicago. And so we were just across the state line, but it was great. And I learned a lot about Korean life, Korean food, and so forth. And they had, they moved to what was Koreatown then. And so from a personal experience, that was it's just such a great, it really is great to have exchanges. And then exchanges on the more higher levels in the city and the state and so forth. And of course, I brought up the sister cities because it was former colleagues with the Northamptonshire sister city, which I was involved with for a number of years. We had we had a lot of great events that you were involved in, and very fond of those. So that's a very good thing. Now back to you, Martin.
Yeah.
On your position as the Honorary Consul of France to Indiana. That's a very unique title.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you probably wonder how me as a German in the United States representing France, but it's based on the work that we do at the International Center. Mm-hmm. We're working very closely with the international governments, the embassies in Washington, D.C., and the consulates in Chicago and Detroit, and also the Honorary Consul Corps here in the state of Indiana. And my predecessor, Diane Thomas, predecessor as President and CEO of the International Center, was the Honorary Consul. Mm-hmm. And during her time, as you remember, we introduced the French Bolloré Group to Indianapolis bringing the electric car sharing program Blue Indy to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And so Peter and I, we were involved in the project management. And when Diane retired, I received a call from the French Consul General in Chicago. And he asked if I would continue to be the Honorary Consul. And I said, well, you know that I'm originally from Germany. And he said, yes. I asked my German colleague, it's okay if we steal one. And I said, well, you also know that I'm not even fluent in French. That is okay too. But we want this house within the International Center, the connections that you have and that you made, and be a point of contact and centrally located for the French citizens here.
Well, that's great. Well, and that's wonderful. So every now and then I run into someone who is French, or also I have a friend here. She's from it's the Central Republic. She's Francophone. And so there are more and more French people that live in our area.
Oh, absolutely. So listed with the official number with the Consul General's office in Chicago are 700 in the state of Indiana. But we know that the number is way higher.
As we heard.
Yeah, and as an honorary consul, again, I will be a point of contact.
Yes.
Helping with facilitating some of the documents. And also be a person in case there is an emergency. One of the French citizens that works and lives here maybe is in an emergency that I can help facilitate and bring the French government and also support from their families back in the country.
Well, that's great. That's helpful. Again, it's helping people in transitions and in blending
Absolutely.
in. And that's always helpful. Back to you, Peter, on a little bit, you've spoken about it also on businesses, on international relations. Is there anything you'd like to add about how you work in the International Center with helping businesses now, as opposed to diplomats, businesses being involved? Because we have a lot of international business in our state.
And often they're tied together. So as Martin's, as the honorary consul, to his boss is the consulate general in Chicago. So we're working to connect the government of France with Eli Lilly and Company, Cummins, Corteva, seeing what needs that those companies have in the countries and what the countries can be doing to make it a better place to do businesses for Indiana companies.
Yes.
We're also working with those companies on that intercultural communication training piece, that there's a different way of communicating. There's different views and values around time, communication styles, whether you're high context or direct context. That's getting a little bit into the weeds of it. But we need to know that there's what we say, it's the meaning's not always in the words. It can be in our nonverbal communication. The silence can have meanings as well. And a lot of our businesses, rightfully, they're looking at the bottom line. But if we're looking at a long-term orientation to developing relationships and maintaining those relationships, that's where the protocol comes in. As Martin talked, we've hosted a number of consulate generals from France as they time out of their tour of duty there in Chicago.
Yeah.
But we're the mainstay at the International Centers. We've stated we've been around for 50 years. So we help to bridge those gaps and reintroduce officials, and whether the turnovers at the consulate or in the companies, we can get everybody up to speed and keep those relationships moving forward.
Well, that's good. I would take it that would be critical, especially when you have, vastly different, if you deal with English, German, French culture, it's kind of easier because there's a lot of that in our background. But whereas, say, somebody from Saudi Arabia or Japan, even
United Arab Emirates.
United Arab Emirates, where a lot of people are. That's really grown quite a bit, especially Dubai. So, that's critically important, especially as we talked about the complexity of international relationships grow. Even here at home, we're with the internet. You're international, just getting on the computer. You really are. And then also, you've spoken about integrating internationals. Martin, can you please tell us about what is coming up soon, up next,
Sure.
for the International Center, and what we have to look forward to?
Sure. So one main event that the International Center is hosting is the International Citizen of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a fundraiser dinner, one of our main fundraisers for the International Center on October 3rd.
October 3rd.
And the International Citizen of the Year honors a person or an institution that put Indiana on the global map in one shape or form. And in the past, recipients were Senator Lugar, Governors Daniels and Holcomb, and last year we had Tamika Catchings. This year will be the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as an institution that attracts people from around the world for more than 100 years. And it will be actually held at the Speedway. So
now, is it public, or is that a group? Is that your organization and dignitaries and so forth?
No, it's open too. So for more information and other events that the International Center is hosting, I would like to refer people to the internationalcenter.org website, and you'll find information. And ticket sale is open as we speak.
Oh, thank you. We will put that in the description, and we'll have that available to our listeners. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's great having you here today, and it's great seeing you again. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. We'd like to thank our guests today, Peter Kirkwood and Martin Baier. We also would like to thank our sponsors, Hotel Carmichael. We are shooting today at Feinstein's. We look forward to being with you on our next episode of The Omnibus Show.
If you enjoyed this program, please like, share, and subscribe to continue the conversation. For the Omnibus Show newsletter, please sign up at theomnibusshow.com.